Is that your honey?
Yeah. All right,
This is spicy.
it's 3:00 and we'll go ahead and we'll call this meeting to order and let's all stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That is good. Got a kick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the kid.
They keep it like this, they fold. Sorry.
Josh, can you over?
All right, so roll call. So in attendance, we have Carol, Doug, Ed, and Bob is absent, and then myself. Approval of the final agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second by Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment, Laura?
Oh, never mind. I have one public comment from Nancy Straw on behalf of PPCA regarding 11A and 13B.
Hi, Nancy Straw, Pelican Preserve. Just wanted to make a quick comment on the agenda today under 11A. You have the service provider agreement that we've been working on with Chelsea and Laura, a group of us you'll see in the notes. And then I know last meeting you also talked about the audit findings and the financial situation going on between the CDD and the Community Association. And I just ask that you deal with those separately and don't let one influence the other. We'd really appreciate that because they're not really connected.
Anybody else?
I do not have anyone else. No one online has their hand raised to talk.
Okay, so let's move on to local achievements and recognitions. Do we have anybody that would like to recognize?
You're for utilities.
Yeah, I just want to mention, we did get, over the past couple weeks, kudos from staff from the residents where utility staff, were responded pretty promptly on if it's, irrigation breaks or pressure issues. So we did receive some email communication from residents praising our utility staff, and I just want to commend them, in front of the public and the board.
Thank you. All right, so advisory committees and items to report, and I'll just talk about the prac stuff at the end, under my supervisor comments. Approval of minutes.
So moved on
You have
minutes for December 7th and December 15th of 2023.
I'll second it for just discussion. There were a couple of blanks in there. Somebody just filled those in later. I think there were dates. Yeah, like at the, on page 12, the closed attorney-client session was terminated at blank. They're just, or those dates that we put in.
Well, no, we ended up filling it in.
Okay.
Yes, when I reviewed the agenda packet and the minutes, George sent me the Word version. I filled that in. I guess if the motion will be to approve them, with the blanks filled in as per council review.
Okay,
That's what I
so
said.
that's.
Thank you.
Oh, you have a motion. We had a second from Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ed, for that.
All right, so let's move to the consent agenda items.
I'll move on consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I had no questions on any of them.
I'll again second it, but got a discussion on that item.
Okay, so we have a second question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
On item G, the paving, the road paving, we just did about $500,000 work over in Gateway Greens. Did somebody put together bid documents on this to get these bids from these three vendors? Who did the bid documents? Reason I ask is it the bidder, the low bidder, Vanessa, which we've had before, very good contractor. I didn't see anything unless you guys got work that was done years ago that was just perfect. We can't do anything in our community that doesn't have a broken curb every 20 feet.
Yep.
I didn't see any curb work.
Well, there is none. It's mainly valley gutters in that community, and staff inspected, and it didn't appear that there were
So the
any.
whole road deal, when you typically want to do a road deal, you do the valley gutters at the same time. If
Yep.
there's breaks and there weren't any.
No.
And when we did,
I know what it is. You haven't got any oak trees.
we're taking them down as fast as we can.
Okay.
No, when we did Avila, we only had gutter issues in some areas.
That's
So
what
if
we-
you remember, there was an add-on to the original contract, but it was not all of the groups
well, the
and the
price,
gutters.
the
It was
price-
just in certain spots.
Well, the price that they offered you was very close to what we just did this past year. I was hard balancing the quantities because our quantity was a little bit bigger. So we had a little bit better unit price, but the second and third low bidder was a little shaky. Those prices got high.
Yeah.
Got high, and they got high fast. So anyway, that's all I had.
I just want to make a note that Mr. Gepper joined us at 3:06.
Thank you, Laura. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor on the consent agenda items? Aye.
And I'd like to commend Bob. This is, the A, B, C, and D are all his work on, getting, the easements from the different people and the different spots. So what are we down to now, Bob?
3,
3 left? Okay,
and then PPAC,
so 4,
or PPCA, yeah.
4 total.
All right, so let's move on to district engineer.
Good afternoon, Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. Today, I only have our task authorization update for you. First up, we have the irrigation pump station generator. One of the dates on here is wrong. It shows 1/30/2026 as a delivery date. It should be 2025. Sorry about that. Nonetheless, it's still a ways out. But the generator's on order and it's slowly being built. Irrigation enforcement improvements, those have been submitted to Lee County and FDEP for their review. We are awaiting permits and comments. Griffin utility location, we should have our record drawings wrapped up this month.
Hey, hold on, Steve. Doesn't that irrigation enforcement improvement, doesn't that date needs to be updated?
Yeah, 12/31/23, yes.
Probably the same thing with the one below.
Yeah, that one's gonna go away here. By the next meeting, it should be gone.
You all received an email this afternoon with an invite for a time and date for the ribbon cutting for that.
Yeah, so.
So just mark your calendars. More details will be coming from the county.
Our email.
Your district email.
Lower Hawthorne Well, last week we had our pre-construction kickoff meeting with the 4 or 5 various contractors. So everyone was in attendance. I think we had a productive meeting. I think there's some things we still have to iron out with SRF, but we're moving forward with that project. Gateway Utility Storage Building, we returned shop drawings yesterday to the contractor. It's still in building department's review process. So that project is moving forward. I will also update that date, Doug. Gateway Admin Building, the deviation request for the emergency access, which was required, was submitted. The DO is to be submitted as well today. That's kind of where it sits right now. I don't know if we want to talk about that at all, Chelsea, but okay. Phase 2.
So that means we're still looking
Carol
at
does.
March of this year for a ribbon cutting?
No,
we're-
we would wait until we put it out to bid and received bids.
think
So
So
We're
that'd
shooting
be-
for finalizing bid documents for advertisement in mid-February. So you could bid late February and then by April, you should have a motion to approve a contract. April
April.
plus or minus.
You might want to just put that in there somewhere,
Yeah, we can look.
because you know I will ask
You're
again in
gonna
April.
hold me to it.
Phase 2, year 2 Lake Bank restoration. This is Met Towers contracts from seasons past. 79 and 117 are wrapped up. 127 and 130 are TBD based on water level. They're on the flowway, can be easily dewatered, and as everyone knows, it's not very dry this dry season yet anyways.
Statement.
Fiscal year 25 design, we have 60% designs coming next month. FY 24, this is, we do have 2 lakes that are under contract right now with B&Z and Extreme Divers. They got their NTP yesterday and they mobilized. They have started working in Daniels Preserve. Exciting stuff going on. A lot of commotion going on over there, so they're rocking and rolling. We have our bids due for the other 4 lakes on the 22nd, so that should be coming the following meeting. Maybe, yeah, it'll be coming back to the board for review. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get some good bids on those.
Just a quick question. Where are we at with total ponds to completion based on our plan? Do you know?
There's 27 left. We have 6 in design right now. That will be done next year, as long as everything goes well. So there will be 21 left after that.
I think we're on, what, 3 of 7? Phase 3 of 7.
Yeah,
We had
something like
Phase 2, just barely.
You're talking about the ones that were the green ones.
Yeah,
out at the end.
that priority list. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what we'll do is, and then we'll get that updated priority list and get that, to your next meeting.
Yeah.
Can we do this? This season's scaring the daylights out of me. I've been here 20 years straight. This is the first time I've ever seen water going over the spillways at this time of year. I've never seen it before. Never.
Yeah.
In fact, usually it's a foot to 15 inches below.
Yeah.
Can we
It's unusual.
start the process, just thinking here, because we got a bunch of ponds that are dependent upon that water level being down.
Right.
Can we go to South Florida and start the thought of lowering those valves we have in all the lakes and let's get rid of the water?
Sure. We can definitely start that
Because
conversation.
if we don't, the rate it's going and the way it rains every other day, we're never going to be able to do these 4 or 5 ponds.
But
So
we have 2 ponds that are weather contingent, and that's the Met Tower ones from 2 years.
27, 30.
yep.
Yeah,
the
well,
one-
those are flowway
The-
ponds.
the
Yeah.
majority- So B and Z has made it clear, and they understand that they're pumping down those ponds right now. So it's their intent to get those done this quote unquote dry season. We have 4 that are out with the bid.
Those all can be
So
isolated.
27 and 30 are flowway ponds.
So
So there's
really-
nothing you can do on those unless you
Well,
look flowway.
We could open the flowway and drop it down to approximately 1 foot below control. So it
Well,
that helps you,
That's
but
4 feet at a 4-to-1 slope. That's 4 feet.
right, it doesn't get you as far down as we want to go. But if we compromise a little bit on how far we want to extend the restoration,
Well, if we can talk to them to get them thinking that we've got a lot of stuff to do to be in compliance,
yeah,
we need their help to be able to do it because we can't sit there and do that stuff underwater.
right, yeah, it's a
That'll work.
mess.
That's issue 1. The second issue is pond 117. I noticed something that I've not seen before. When they put the riprap at the toe of the slope. Man, was riprap free that week?
I don't know, it looks a
I
little
have
heavy. but
never
yeah,
seen, I mean, it was 2.5 feet high.
yeah.
And when the water level came back up, the water was on the back of the bank, but the riprap
Yeah.
was sticking up out of the
Some of those
water.
slopes are 8 to 1 or shallower in some
How much,
areas.
why did we use so much, or did he just overkill?
He might have put a little heavy, but our detail is 18 inches. So
It was
it might have
more-
been,
It was more than that.
yeah,
Okay, it looked weird. People were asking, what are we doing? We create a dam?
yeah,
There's a lot of riprap,
understood.
Well,
but
for
the pond
20
came out really
For
good. though.
27 and 30, how low can we get the flow rate to make them
Minus 1 foot from control, so control.
-1 only,
Yeah.
so the.
without permission or with permission?
We still have to talk to them to move that much water.
See, your
'cause that's gonna
your-
drain all basin.
Weir
forward.
number 3
Yeah.
is the critical one. We got to get that weir lowered down to impact Gateway.
So we have
That's
to
the
use
critical one.
the sluice way now. We have to go around the weir.
Yeah.
By opening.
Yeah. That's what we need is to
And we
impact
can, we
Gateway.
can open out a foot, you think?
Well, we designed it so that the control elevation can be lowered 1 foot. Yeah,
Below the control.
right.
Do you have to do weir 2 at the same time or otherwise?
No, no,
Okay.
Don't have to.
it'll
but
flow downstream and then just go over the weir.
Just go higher over the weir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sooner the better. We get
I
permission.
agree. Because 27 and 30 are critical ponds. Those sides are dangerous,
Yeah,
but you're not going to do that with the water level at control.
I mean, the proposed work still takes place below 1 foot of control, though. I think we're
I
down
understand.
2 to 3,
But
so.
one puts a lot of water.
Yeah, I mean, that'll give it'll speed up the process if it does start to dry out, We can talk to them for sure.
If that's the direction from the board, we will talk to them.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah,
I need direction.
My motion would be that we approach South Florida and indicate on ponds that have non-compliance issues of slope and what's where I want escarpment, that we be allowed to, as soon as possible, when we do enter dry season, to lower those ponds as much as we can so that we can work on those yet this spring.
So
I'll
second
second.
your motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Heard and understood. On 36, we provided plans and bid documents to Gateway staff. They've been reviewed by them. They provided comments. We will have those turned back around to them. I think today is our date to turn it back around because you guys want to get it bid out tomorrow.
Is that the pond that comes in from the south?
It's just west of Matarita.
Yeah.
It's in Pelican Preserve.
It's a different pond.
Yeah. Public Works Storage Building. We're proceeding with design. Tentative 60% design review meeting will be March 7th. Not on the TA list yet, but will be next time as a master park plan. There's a kickoff meeting tomorrow afternoon with Almontes, Tetra Tech, and Gateway. And then we have various development updates. Arborwood, we just delivered a punch list today to Lennar. They have a couple things they need to wrap up out there still before we start accepting turnover of anything. Daniels Parkway Apartments, we're still waiting for them to provide an updated plan for the irrigation main. Last I heard, it was a holdup with FP&L. Santa Luz, they are not completed with the work out there. Santos Apartments, I think they're getting ready to resubmit under new ownership. Another developer bought that Alta rezone project.
What?
So the developer bought that property, the Alta property, and was going to develop into apartments. That got sold to another developer who was essentially using the same package or product, but it's like slightly different. But it'll look pretty much the same as it was when we first reviewed it. Prado or Prado. We still haven't received any response from Lennar about addressing.
you know, that's amazing, as much as they were pushing us 8 or 9 months ago.
Surprise.
Got to release the bond, got to release the bond. Have done nothing.
FGUA, we have reviewed their construction set of plans and specifications. We had one minor comment from Austin. I think Bill's going to wrap up his review tomorrow, and then we're going to send any final comments to FGUA and Johnson Engineering so they can continue. They're in the permitting process right now, so they're probably at least 3 months away from construction, at least on our end, I would think. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
I have none. No?
Great, thank you. Yes, no.
Okay, Steve, when did Daniels Parkway Apartments resubmit? It was just for that one section.
Oh,
of the
man. that was-
Irrigation main. I think the last time plans I saw, they still had the irrigation wells on them.
Yeah, they did. We
That-
we returned that to them.
Okay,
We're waiting. for
Yeah.
the
a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's probably, I want to say October,
October.
November. Yeah.
So this is
It's
another,
in their queue to submit to.
okay, to back to
Yeah.
our latest comments.
Yeah.
Okay. thank
Ed
you.
has a comment. actually.
Were you just referring to the Worthington deal
Yes,
on the irrigation?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had wells still when they resubmitted, they didn't address our original comment that said you can't have wells. They just resubmitted it with wells. And I called him and he said that wasn't his intent to us, but he was working on a solution. He just didn't convey that clearly. So,
That's it. All right,
Great.
thank you.
thank you all. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. Okay, so let's go, admin agenda items. That's you, Chelsea.
So we have this service provider agreement. We wanted to bring this in front of you. PPAC has discussed it at length and recommended approval to the board. There were 2 items that PPAC had under consideration that were really behind all of the negotiations that we've had with the community association over the last probably 8 months. One of them being the service provider agreement and the duties that fall within it. And then the second being a separate standalone resolution for consideration of I'll call it a seat at the table a designated seat at the table for the community association on PPAC. And so PPAC has not taken action on that other than tabling it, and they want to discuss it further at their next meeting. This service provider agreement, to Nancy's point earlier, we have many things going on with Pelican Preserve right now. And Tony, I don't know if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I'd like to, from a standpoint of the interactions with the Pelican Reserve Community Association recently, as you're aware, we're still having the contention and contentious issue with regards to monies in the accounts. And that's not yet resolved. Per the board's direction, I sent a letter out on January 5th, 2024 to Stephen Adamczyk, the counsel for PPCA, and I have a packet of emails since that time, an email chain for the board if they wish to. But I have not yet received a response to that communication to Mr. Adamczyk. Chelsea sent that letter to PPCA by a subsequent email, sent it to Faye and Rosie, Faye, and Bill Sirico on January 11th. And there's items going back and forth about reports from their auditors. And so at this point, my recommendation is, since we're having an issue with the prior agreement that's been terminated, and the letter that we sent out said that they have until January 21st, 2024 to provide us all the documents we need under the agreement.
That's Monday.
Yes, and there are still a number of other documents from prior correspondence in this packet are the letters going back to last year, where we were requesting various bank records and various statements and making demands for return of monies. I would suggest that the board table this to the next board meeting to see where we are in resolving the current issues under the current to be terminated agreement before the board enters into a new agreement with that same entity. That's my recommendation.
Who drafted this agreement?
It was a combination. I think I received the
Well,
initial version.
The boilerplate, the initial version was a district version, and it went back and forth between Tony and
So it's a blend.
their attorney, with comments back and forth. And with comments provided from the internal negotiations group.
Tara, you have a comment?
Yes, may I ask Nancy Straw a question?
Sure, Nancy, if you want to come up.
Nancy, is this an agenda item on your community association agenda for the 25th?
Probably not. As some of you know, Faye was in Pennsylvania and came down with COVID and just flew back this morning. I don't know how much she's been able to catch up, but our attorney has not gotten back to us about the agreement as far as I know. And if we haven't had our attorney review it, I don't think our board can act on it.
Okay, I would also like to hear a response from your board also.
Well, our board
I
can't
was at your workshop yesterday,
Right.
as was Bob, and heard some interesting discussion from one of your directors. And so I would like to have a formal response from your board on this also.
So Carol,
I was
perhaps,
gonna say, yeah, I need some clarity
Yeah,
on
our-
exactly what it was.
Our board is not going to even consider it until it's been approved here.
see,
Because it has to go through PPAC and
I
the
would
Board of
recommend
Supervisors.
the opposite. So typically, when we bring contracts in front of you, we've had the vendor sign off on the contract
Before.
before it comes
What's
to you.
staff recommendation for
Yeah.
approval? Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Agree.
a comment from what Tony suggested, I think I heard, that until we resolve the financial items, we not consider this.
Correct.
My question is, because my memory's bad, when did the financial stuff start? When was the first request for?
I believe it was
6 months?
June
June.
of
I
2023.
believe June was when, summer of last
Yeah.
year of twenty.
So it's been a long-standing item.
Over 6 months. I remember the conversation very
Okay, I
clearly.
didn't know how long it been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
June
that's
28,
June
2023.
June 28, 2023, June 26, 2023. And before that, Laura was having difficulties, I think, latter part of 22, early part of 23 during the transition of getting bank records. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But it sort of became more difficult, it seems like, in June.
Okay, so Carol,
So if it is not on, your next meeting is in February.
Yes.
So I would like to table this until our first meeting in March.
Well, like I said, Carol, our board is not going to act on it until you have approved it. I really don't think they will. I doubt.
Isn't that, okay, go ahead, Chelsea.
Well, I think Carol made a motion, so I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
address
there's
that.
a second to that motion to table.
What's your thought on that?
Second for
I'll
discussion.
second, okay, I was
Okay.
gonna say, I'll say a word to
So
We have one meeting a month, and it's usually the
Third or fourth.
third or
Thursday.
fourth Thursday
Or Tuesday.
So
I mean, they.
of the
call a
month,
meeting
so
if
it
they-
would be the end of February before they would take this up as an agenda item on their agenda.
Do they
So-
understand the importance of this issue?
So that's what.
That's why I'm saying that we should table it until our first meeting in March to hear what
So can I chime in?
the funds
Yes, go
from
ahead.
them.
So Tony and I have talked about this and truthfully, until there's resolution with this auditing issue, which we have yet to receive, there's been communications. We're trying to resolve, trying to set up a meeting between attorneys, auditors, staff, et cetera. In light of not receiving a response from the most recent demand letter. And, you know, we have the 21st deadline from the prior agreement that we should be receiving a slew of documents,
All of it.
all of it. And
On Monday.
we have to remember that this is a contract that they're providing services, just like the Bonnes contract you approved earlier, where they're providing a service that we're paying for. I would recommend that we not sign off on this until their board has.
Or are you saying
My
that this-
recommendation also, again, my experience dealing with local governments, and it's typically historically that the staff works with the other boards and parties to come up with an agreement that that entity is comfortable with. And Chelsea and I and the staff I think we have a good sense of what would make it's comfortable for the board in making a recommendation for approval. I could bring something to you that we don't think the board would accept, but it's not the way that it's being portrayed. The non-governmental entity does not weigh, it's not the tail wagging the dog. That's what, I'm sorry, that's what's happening here. If we say you go first, you approve it, then we will approve what you approve. I'm sorry. That's not the typical process. That's how it's been handled.
I have-
Plus all the other financial issues.
So are you saying this is premature until we got these other issues resolved?
Absolutely. There's still, well, and again, part of it is, how can you enter into a new agreement when you have
Okay.
lingering issues in the old agreement?
Then that leads into what you said.
I have a comment based on our last meeting.
And that's, okay, and then I have a comment after.
Go ahead, if you want to go first.
Well, my comment is, because I was not in attendance, like, what was your concern at the meeting?
At the HOA meeting.
Oh, at the workshop,
Yes.
it was not an HOA official meeting, it was their workshop meeting before their regular meeting. And there was one of the members of the board who basically said, I don't like it and I'm not voting against it. And then they kind of went to another member of the board and he said, well, I haven't read it yet, so I'm not saying anything. And there was another one who said he didn't know if the attorney had approved everything on this or not. So I would like some direction from their board rather than, and you were there also, Bob. So,
Yeah, I was surprised by it.
yeah, so
So-
that's why I'm saying, I think we need, I don't want to
Three.
approve something that,
Yeah, but I'm
They're gonna-
focused on a different issue. I understand what you're saying about that. I don't disagree with the thing you said. But the last meeting, what I thought I heard was that the fiduciary issues that are outstanding, that this board said to staff, go back to 2019 or 2020, some other date, even further than we have here. That suggested to me at the time that we've been discussing a difference between 90,000 and 136, but that's not really what we ought to be discussing. We ought to be discussing the whole package up from that's what I thought I heard the board say.
And that's what it, so it's,
Because I voted against that, but it passed.
but, so
I
it's
wanna
two
make sure I
things, I
understood.
guess, my memory serves me right. Kara wanted to look back 4 months into the initial date of the issue.
Right.
correct.
And we'd realized after talking to Laura, and then I had some knowledge that the issue went back years
Further
before.
before.
So I think if we had the documents, if they were provided as the entire documents, I think we would not have that discussion in an audit, maybe would not be necessary because we would have the ability to look at it and get our answers. And to be quite frank, my personal opinion is that there are no documents to provide, because otherwise they would have provided to us. I mean, we're not, so, but then I would have appreciated that
Yeah, I'm
there
not,
are no documents and that's it, because this is what it's taking so long.
yeah, I'm not an accountant by any stretch. But it seemed like what we as a board did was put money into a checking account. Use your own words. And that they took the money out of the checking account to pay bills that should have been paid for by the district.
Yes and no, because we don't know.
Well, but that means theory. That's what it should have happened.
Yeah,
We gave them money, they wrote checks, and now simplistically,
They don't
we're
match.
just asking for the checks. What did you buy?
yes.
They don't match.
And I can't understand why that's so difficult.
Exactly. So, we have to also make sure, because they're very similar to Stony Brook, that the monies were paid for gateway issues, not HOA issues and all that. So there's a lot of questions and everything but clarity.
Well, I think Tony's point is that the responsibility ultimately is ours.
Either public
And,
fund.
and we need to have some degree of confidence in what we've got.
Correct. And in fact, we've had no response to my letter of January 5th. And we have contentions, issues involving the agreement that's about to be terminated. And so I find it difficult, my recommendation for the board, to not consider entering into another agreement. Take
Okay.
action on it until such time as the other issues are, at least we get some resolutions or some documents or some information. But right now, we don't have compliance with the prior agreement. We'll find out on the 21st if we do.
Well,
but we've been
to
acting.
Carol's point, tabling this to the first meeting in March, perhaps that would give the HOAs the opportunity to get their ducks in a row, hopefully approve the agreement and then bring it, we can have it.
And then we can table again if there's not.
Yeah, because then that'll be passed.
One thing I'm puzzled about, my understanding was my communications with Mr. Danzig were, he only had a couple of comments with regards to the agreement. And there was just only like one lingering issue. Was all, but not the body of the agreement. There's some changes made. But there's only one, I'll call paragraph, that apparently is the issue with regards to PPCA wanting to have, I'll call it veto power over.
I think we've resolved that.
We
I think-
resolved
Okay,
that
so that
long.
was the only issue then. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm puzzled by that their council hasn't got back to them on the agreement. I thought he was comfortable with the agreement.
Well, there were changes made by EPAC.
So we have Carol made a motion.
hasn't
and then
reviewed
Ian
those.
Second
Okay, guess what?
for discussion. So let's go ahead and call it a vote then. We have a motion to table this item into the first meeting of the Board of Supervisors in March.
In March.
Second by Ed. Sorry?
March 7th.
March 7th.
March 7th.
Second by Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
District manager?
You need to be a Philadelphia lawyer to read this stuff.
It was fun writing it.
God.
It was good.
Any questions on the admin report?
This is 2 months, November and December's report since we missed the second meeting in December. That's all knowing your all of the reports are out.
I just had a comment. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
I just had a comment on the Lee County Sheriff's Office reporting. So I know we talked about months back on the format. So the same deputy, I guess, is having an issue conforming to the format that we have asked. So can we just either not have that deputy do the detail if he's not willing to,
I had one just over the weekend I had to send back to. their-
nothing to report is, to me, nothing to report, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, we can ask that deputy not be on the shift.
That LCSO, I got a phone call last week from the office as a result of all the hoopla about golf carts over on Gateway Greens. And they made it clear that the procedure of giving warnings is over. And they're now going to be giving fines. And I said, well, I can tell you just straight out what the problem is in my community. Golfers that are living across the street or adjacent, trying to get to the golf course, are being, for lack of a better term, harassed. And yet you come over here to the soccer field, there's 25 golf carts out there. How did they get here? The only way they got here was by helicopter to avoid being illegal. Why are you doing nothing about that? And they said they are going to go over there, and if there's golf carts there, go tell them to get a trailer to haul them out because they're not going to leave. Somebody needs to be talking to that soccer league and let them know this has got to stop. It's got to stop. I don't know if anybody else has
It's
told
on,
them that.
I haven't
but
seen
it's
it. I haven't
it's
seen
an
it.
issue.
I'm not there on Saturday as much anymore, but I know like flag on Friday nights and the practice nights, I very rarely see any golf carts anymore.
Is it cutting down?
Yeah, for sure. At least on the flag nights. I can't speak to soccer because I'm not there on Saturdays anymore. And I know there used to be quite a bit that would travel, but it's probably just, might be good to let the lead directors know, and they can put it in their emails out. Hey, if you're not aware, this is the new standard. You're not permitted, or just outline what the rule is. And they typically, will follow it. And most people just don't realize it.
Yeah,
don't know.
we put out a blast in our community about a week and a half ago, and people were firing back at me. Go down to the Boulevard Deli. Go down and look at them. They're lined up. How did they get there? They have to
Well,
go
and
to Gateway Boulevard to get there. There's no any other way to do it unless they helicopter them in. But nobody's doing anything, but they're hassling the golfers, and it's a hot issue.
Yeah, and I hate it because I think it's,
It's over.
as far as as long as we've lived here, there's always been golf carts traveling on, and I very rarely have ever heard, any issues, but it may come to a point where we may have to post some signs that golf carts are prohibited in these areas, just because, again, I just don't think people know. I don't think they know.
They do in our 1500 though, because I hear.
Yeah, I'm talking about, but
Yeah.
overall, I don't think that a lot of people that word.
Or
is
they're
getting
ignoring
out.
it.
Yeah, or they're ignoring. But my whole point is, if we are taking this line in the stand, saying that, hey, we are going to adhere to what Lee County has directed, and we're not going to allow it, then maybe we encourage the county to put up some signs that golf carts are prohibited on sidewalks and, whatever.
I think that seems to be more their problem.
Yeah.
If you're
I mean, it's
crazy
not
enough to
ours.
go out there on Gateway Boulevard with or without a street legal golf cart, you're taking life in your own hand. Those cars going 60, 70 mile an hour up Gateway Boulevard, you're out there on a golf cart that goes 25.
And maybe that's, maybe that's the conversation we need to have is, how involved should we get if it's not our, property?
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Why? Let Lee County. handle it.
Yeah.
well,
Maybe that's,
but-
if I think about it more, it's like maybe what we do is we let the county handle it, because it might be better for us.
Well, our problem is over at ours is we register golf carts. And our attorneys advised us, you will not register any golf cart that has to come into the community illegally. Because if you let them in and they have a wreck, guess who's going to get sued?
What do you mean? Can't?
Because you allowed it.
What do you mean? If you got a resident
No, these are people that live
They're like-
outside the community.
and they want to drive their golf cart in your community,
Correct. We will not issue them a registration.
you need a registration to come in,
Yeah.
to just drive in.
To drive on our roads, you have to have a registration of your golf cart to show that you have insurance.
So they can't just drive up to the tennis court, say, or the golf course and play.
No. No.
Well, is that a Gateway Greens issue or is that our issue?
That's our Gateway
that's
Greens
their
issue.
stuff. That's their stuff.
That's
That's
ours
your
simply
roads.
because our roads are private.
You could do whatever you
Okay.
want.
Well, we're trying to
Well, I'm
avoid
actually-
liability.
The thing with Doug, I mean, why are we getting involved in what's in Boulevard?
For our CDD, nothing other than informing people what's going on because they're not getting
Okay.
it from anybody else.
Information sharing, because Lee County is saying.
But didn't
Lee
you just
County's
say,
not talking to
but
anybody.
Ed, didn't you say that if they're not street legal and they're trying to register in Gateway Greens, you're not doing that if they live outside of the community?
If they are street legal, we will give them registration and a transponder. If they are not street legal, we will not give them any registration and will not let them come through the gate.
So the only other feedback that I had, so looking at one of the let's see, the report from 12/19 where it says location, offense, and ticket and warning. So that deputy went and put in the ticket number, and then the other reports, it just has warning. Like, what does that mean? A verbal warning, or is it like a warning? So I like them to have the ticket information, just like they have on the.
Didn't we used to get a more detailed report that actually had the time
Well,
of the
this-
incident and location?
Well, this tells you the date and then between,
Yeah,
between
but that
hours.
doesn't mean
Yeah,
shit to me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to know if someone was pulled over at 9:05 at this location, so I can try to understand where they're concentrating their attention, where the
Okay.
violations are happening, or else this data is irrelevant.
Then I
Doesn't
would
mean
be-
anything to us.
It doesn't mean
even
anything.
Adding just two more things there, date and time, and then, well, it already says ticket number there, so.
Well, because what we should be able to do, and I don't know if the county would do this for us, but you have all these data points. You consolidate the data and you can run some really good reports on when things are happening, on what days, at what locations, and we can start to understand, just
there's any-
on our end, just some of the traffic trends. And maybe the county would do this for us, but this data is for me not significant other than to say that when they're here, they've done a few things.
When they're over in our community, because we have the contract with them, when they do or issue a speeding ticket, we get a report back and we get two things. We get the speed and we get their zip code address. That's all. They will
That's
give
not
us
acceptable.
nothing else. They say they can't do that by law.
I don't think,
Citation.
I don't think
numbers.
Florida statute will not allow them to give the address or any of the information of the violating person.
request.
No, but what's interesting though, the citations are filed with the clerk of courts and they're all public record.
Yeah. And I mean, we're receiving
Well, if you
it
try to
some,
get it from them direct, forget it, because they won't give it to you.
yeah.
I think the question that we ask is what can be supplied in the reports to us? Because I remember we used to get very detailed. I mean, it's been a while, so really,
I
but we used to
just-
get very detailed reports.
this deal that they keep referring back to statute changes, that they cannot give that information to anybody else.
Well,
My
what's
deal
the-
was, he said, well, what do you want it for? Well, she down at Lee County Sheriff's Office, what do you want it for? And I said, real easy. You're gonna get $100 fine from us.
Well, and I'm not even taking it that far on our end. We just want to know where things are happening at what frequency. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think we're
that's-
gonna have a problem with that. I think we'll be able to get
Okay,
that. information.
because if that's what you're trying to extract from these reports, then I'll admit, getting the reports from some of these folks, it's like pulling teeth. So,
We found
and,
out.
I've had to send it back to their traffic ops person and say, hey, and
Are you
even-
still dealing
even-
with Jennifer?
yeah,
Yeah.
even he's like, you've
What's
grown
your-
adults that
what's your
have been
name?
tasked
Jennifer?
to fill out this report and submit it to these two people, and half the time it can't be done. So, but we will tweak the report and ask them to make sure that they fill it out appropriately. And also the one deputy asked them to not be filling the shifts unless they're gonna follow what we're
Yeah.
requesting.
Well, like Doug said, this stuff is
Don't pay
meaningless.
them.
Meaningless.
It's meaningless.
Don't pay
And
them,
two, it helps us. It provides us with the data so we can better tailor our detail to meet the peak times when incidents are happening.
Yeah.
Because right now we're basing
Hit
it
and
on
miss.
assumptions.
Hit and miss.
We're basing it on assumptions. And that's not what we should be doing.
I agree.
Okay.
All right.
I have one-
Okay, can we
Karen.
get back to the financials? The question that Laura asked, did we have any questions on them?
I didn't think we got that far.
Yeah, it's,
Oh,
I'm still a white and one.
oh, okay. Then I'll wait.
My question is under the memorandum of an administrative actively advertising interview for the open positions. Are we getting any closer to hiring?
Yes, we actually have 2 employees starting for Public Works on Monday. And we've got really 2.5 vacancies left for the entire district.
Is
So-
one of those two the supposedly new open position in Pelican? Or are they for other things?
They're the other maintenance positions that we have available.
So we're no closer to filling the open Pelican position right now.
We're actively interviewing, and they have to pass a drug test and background check, which is
All right,
most of the
well,
time half the fight. half the
I was
battle.
just, yes or no? I mean, it's October, November, December.
Send out many offers.
Now we're in the job. Offer more. Okay, I just,
Pay more, Bob.
just-
It's comes
I
from
just-
Pelican's budget.
well, we got 4 months worth of money in our pocket. We could, kick up the,
Don't
but
say
there's
that.
nothing happened yet.
We're working on it.
Not for lack of effort.
No, I understand.
And that is honestly, that's a really terrible time to hire between November and December.
Yeah.
Historically. So normally actually end of January, February, you'll start to see things pick up.
Most people get year-end bonuses that time that they want to stay, and,
I'd say the goal would,
Smart
the goal would
the
be
smart
within,
ones.
the goal would be within the next 60 days.
Okay, my second comment is on the ponds, portion of stormwater ponds environmental,
Public Works.
the new staff gauge, but that's still part of A, right? Number
Yeah.
1,
it is.
okay.
It's everything.
The new staff gauges, I mean, it doesn't seem to me like those gauges were that old. I mean, how, are they a yearly and throw away, or do they last 10 years? I mean, the rain gauges, correct? And rear elevation gauges.
You're talking about the elevation gauges?
Yeah.
On the,
At the weirs.
weirs?
Sitting
Where's the
on-
control speakers?
So are they being cleaned with like a brush to where you clean them off?
Are these the new ones that I asked her to do?
It's new ones that you asked her to do, yes. So it's
On both the new weirs?
correct.
On the construction of the weirs that we just.
2 and 3.
Last year, we had, it was not required of the contractor to put these on, so these are brand new to put on.
But I thought we had gauges there before we did this work.
We made one an adjustable weir and,
We made both adjustable.
okay,
Yeah, but I thought there was gauges there
I'm not sure.
already.
I asked her to make sure that they were new, everything else
Okay.
was new.
All right, if that's all, I just wondered why they wore out. I mean, they hadn't been here that long. Okay, thank you. One was missing? And not least, the big target we have at the gatehouse, the trucks like to hit. Are we gonna put some kind of, is there an effort now to put something out front that says if you can't fit through here, don't hit our building?
There is. So Daniel Potter, Public Works Director. We're looking right now for just signs. We're doing signs and signs posts. I'm ordering at least 2 sign posts and then extra signs to go on the actual facility itself. And then I'm looking for a height barrier prior to the entry. So
Okay.
not gonna go as fancy as a light shield, or a laser, but
On the highlight.
I am looking to have basically one that hangs from a chain at that height, so that
You mean
it gets
something
hit
with
before.
just a couple of pipes with a line going across?
Yep.
If you hit this, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're in that, but I'm gonna bring it out away from the building so that
Right.
they hit that first
Sure.
before they hit the building.
Well, I thought we were getting
Put it on
there.
the other side.
I thought we were getting there when the high low hit it, on the fountain.
We had to
with the
make,
side.
we were just, making sure that,
We want to do a
Target
really good
practice.
repair job there, take out a little more of it.
Well, the repair work looks good. They're doing a good job. I mean, other than that little center section, and it was repaired very quickly. That was impressive. But I was wondering how we prevent it from being hit. And that's where I was thinking of some kind of a bar or
Yeah,
something.
we're looking at traffic.
Because they say it's the guard's job to tell them, that ain't working.
How many of those guys that come in, I know what comes into our community, thank God we don't have this issue, but they don't have any clue of what their height is.
Well, and that's true. But the other thing is we could just make all trucks come in the residence side. Now, that's less efficient, but we won't damage the
Then you
building.
got. then
I
you
will
can't-
say from the past 2 that have hit it, it's been because of irregularities. One pulling it with his normal truck. He could normally get underneath it. The most recent one, he can normally get underneath it with his truck. Switched out truck, grabbed the same trailer that he normally goes underneath it with, and just because of the variance in the hitch,
2 inches higher. than
it's a
the
little bit higher, and it was just enough to clip it.
Clip
The Bethel Farm one as well was also a forklift that was on the bed of the
Right, I
trailer.
remember
That
that.
was the actual thing that hit it, so
Right.
he thought he still had clearance.
It was the
so,
mask of the forklift.
Yeah. So we're working on some
Okay,
safety devices to be installed.
thank you. I
I just
saw
have
that. and I
one,
went up-
Daniel. So regarding the damage by Mainscape, I didn't see in the report, historically, when we reported that there's a damage like this, ruts, it's like, okay, it's there, but I do not ever recall, and at least I would say the last 5 years, that Mainscape ever came back and replaced sod. It's kind of like, wait, it will look better in a few months, but then the ruts are still there and it's still gonna happen, and that's why it happened. What are we doing with that? Are we getting them to, 'cause the contract says they have to fix it.
Yeah, they're fixing it.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I have Scott. I wind Scott up and I send him after him.
Yeah, we get a similar situation
Yes.
with the guys, Brad's company. Extreme divers,
Extreme divers.
that big vac truck.
Yep.
Getting into some of these out of the way places, just tearing the hell out of the side.
As they're identified,
Wait,
we go back through Scott Connell and make sure that we have a repair. report.
Scott's the follow-up.
He's the PM for their side, and he goes out and executes as damages are made and to repair and fix.
Alright. You had a question? Anything?
I was gonna ask
Financials.
about some of the financials,
Okay.
we
not the
do have,
reports themselves.
we do have, for the quarterly
12B.
12B, we do have Stephen Bloom that will be giving a presentation, but if you want to ask about specific numbers,
I may or may not be able to answer.
Well, are we to that part? Are we to the attachments?
Sure.
Okay, if one of our residents wanted to look and it basically had the question, what is the financial health of the district? There are 7 reports here. Which one of those would you point them to and say, look at the, I don't know, financial report summary, fiscal year 24. PDF, which one gives the best picture of the financial health of this district?
For the district or for Pelican or for what?
For the district,
Just the district.
right? A taxpayer wants to know how we're doing.
I would go to the actual financials that are provided in every,
The summary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rather comprehensive. There's a lot of information.
there's a lot of
there's a
information.
ton of information.
I mean, you get down to the actual invoice.
like 254 come down.
Is there any way of making
Condensing.
a summary of that?
Condensing it.
So somebody, if they look at something, doesn't want to read 10 pages worth of,
The only thing
numbers?
you might be able to do would be to take the main topics, the main categories.
she
That's about
did.
all you could do.
We have
Carol, this is the item that you had asked,
the
Laura,
template.
if Laura
that's-
gets together, and
That's
this
about
is,
as good as
this
you
is
can
what we've got. So this is a very
Big picture.
big executive summary, big picture. And this is the first time that you've seen this,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I've been working on it, trying to get it populated, and so now this will be in monthly with your financials.
That's a lot
Okay.
of information right there.
It takes me a while to put it together too.
So we could just say, look at the
Summary.
summary.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Because this gives you your balance sheet, here's our revenue. That's by fund, so it's very high level.
right,
And then if you're like Bob and you want to get into details, you look at the financials.
correct.
Go to the individual section.
Yeah.
I go to the sections, even to the invoices.
And the other thing that jumped out at me was most people paid their taxes in November.
They usually-
Huge
they get the
percentage.
90%,
Yeah, they get the discount.
You get the discount.
We get
Well,
the-
I know, but obviously people do that.
Making more money off the discount than they can on investment.
Well, I come from a state that generally they didn't pay till they had to.
And then you had to
They didn't
chase.
pay till June 1st. Let's put it that way. No discounts.
Put everything under.
So I was
Was that a blue state?
pleased and a little surprised at that.
Anything
Okay,
else for
capital
the
projects.
monthly reports?
I don't know.
With that, Stephen Bloom is on the call, and we'll turn it over to him to give this quarterly update.
Oh, really, I'm sorry, before Steven goes, we were just talking briefly before the meeting. The roundabout looks like it's proceeding. Do we have I know there's the ribbon cutting, but what is the date? Have they changed it
For what?
for the roundabout?
Open March, like
Still,
18th.
okay,
still March.
yeah.
Cause they're getting down to things that are final item
Yeah, they're
right
doing-
now.
Some of their contractors are doing punch lists, but then some, like Bentley's out there over the next 2 weeks flying the remaining of the light poles. So there's some different stages, but they're still anticipating March. And then ribbon cutting, again, you guys got the email. Details will be coming from the county's PIO on that event.
I didn't look at that. What's the date on ribbon cutting?
In March, I think.
Into March?
In March 28th, I think.
Okay.
So you got it in your district email, so make sure you pencil that in, please. All right, Stephen Bloom.
Yes. So, good afternoon, early good evening. Stephen Bloom from Infomark. What you have in front of you is another type of summary in terms of how you're doing for the first quarter. And you kind of stole a little bit of my thunder here, because the first thing I was going to be able to say is, wow, how great the assessments have done through the first quarter. Being at 90% is really good to be able to see that. So what you'll typically see from most districts is very top heavy revenue coming in the first quarter, like you have. And then, much lower expenses and expenditures, which we'll talk about here in a second. But in terms of everything looks good. The only thing I will note, and it's not really so much of an issue as just something we track, utility billing is a little bit behind the budget, but we see that typically every year as you get closer into your summer months. That usually, flips, and you're usually either above budget or right there. So really nothing to worry about at this time. The other thing I wanted to mention is we do obviously include in our budget numbers loans and bond proceeds So you can see in the capital project line, it's very low. Again, there's no guarantee as to whether, those projects will go forward that will actually require the loans or the timing of some of that information. So it's not necessarily a concern that number is low at this point. Otherwise, just good numbers to report on the revenue. Kind of the right side of our summary here kind of shows you a little bit of a breakdown on the types of revenue, and nothing surprising here. 80% of your total revenue coming in is through special assessments. And then what we would expect to see, the second part of that, or the second highest amount, being your utility billing at about a little bit over 14%. Just to give you a little bit of color to the numbers, that's really kind of all what those charts are doing. Now, the bottom half of this is kind of your expenditure/expenses. And again, what we normally see in the first quarter of the year as things start to build up, it's usually a much lower number. Obviously, there's a lot of projects and different things that are going on that will, increase this number. But right now, it's about 11%. Again, if everything was right on everything in terms of all spending on a straight line basis, you would see that percentage at 25%. So again, nothing alarming one way or the other. It's just the year is just starting, and this kind of gives you an idea as to where everything is going to be spending. Again, quite a bit of projects that are on the table here, and that second to last line under total. So that's usually where you'll start to see, as those pick up, you'll see these expenditures numbers and the percentage compared to your budget go up. And then again, on the right side, just a little bit of an idea as to how it's breaking down. Right now, big numbers are in your operations. Again, once the projects go, that number will flip.
And Stephen, just to be clear, and Laura made a good point, the expenses on here are the checks sent out, paid, cut, not encumbered funds, correct?
That is correct. So again, that's why, especially with projects based, and obviously even with a typical contract, what that means is, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar or comfortable with encumbered, if you got a landscaping contract, it's a 12-month contract. Technically, you've encumbered 12 months worth of your budget, but this only shows actuals, what you've been spent. So there are certainly purchase orders, there's contracts and different things that are already accounted for within, and that's why you kind of always compare it to budget and then look at your other projects and spending.
And from an operational standpoint, Laura tries to tame the purchases, at least out of the general fund, especially in the first quarter until the revenue hits. Not that we can't afford it. It's just from an operational standpoint, we don't want to just go gung ho and purchase everything and spend the money in the first quarter. We want to budget appropriately.
And even though we've reached the end of the first quarter, we still don't know what the final numbers were, audited numbers for the 2023 year.
Correct.
And that won't happen until March.
Usually it's a question for Stephen.
Another 3 months.
Yeah.
No,
Next
that's great.
month to tell us what was spent last year.
Well,
Stephen, you want to?
yes, I'm still here. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so to answer the first part of the question, no, we will not have final numbers till March, but we can certainly, and I'll speak to that here in a second, I can certainly give you what we're heading into the audit with. And as you've known probably from, kind of looking at these audits over the years, those numbers are not going to wildly swing. So just to give you some numbers here, for example, in the general fund, the overage, or basically what we exceeded our revenue by, 1.3, meaning that a favorable 1.3 is being carried forward into the new year. And I'm saying that I'm using those specific terms because that $1.3 million is then assigned to other projects, other purchase orders and different things. But that is, Bob, the number for the general fund. For Pelican Preserve, that number right now is, where is it? About 450,000. That's going to get carried over into the new year. And I can certainly give any of the other funds that you'd want to hear, but that's kind of where we are right now. And again, it's nothing new, meaning there hasn't.
Can you say, Stephen, can you give the Stony Brook? We do have.
Oh,
a gentleman
I'm
here
sorry.
from Stony
Yep.
Brook.
I absolutely should have done that. I apologize. So that's about $63,000, and I'm rounding numbers a little bit here. But and the other thing, by the way, in case anyone's interested, we can always rerun an updated September report and, you know, provide it, and, you know, Laura can provide it just to kind of give you an idea. So right now, just again, to kind of take this to the next point, we are now already started on audit work papers. The audit process will start, and then in a couple months, your auditor will be presenting you the final report.
That report to run it as well. It's the same report they run.
So you can email that out to them
I can.
tomorrow.
But I realize it is not audited. They're ballpark.
I'm looking for directions, just a directional. Are we negative? Are we positive? So for instance, if the Pelican budget was 3.3 million last year, and we're coming in under by 450,000, that's an important number that I'd like to, you know, that's where I'm focused.
Mhm.
And that may move, you know, 20, 30,000 one way or the other as we go forward, but it should be about 450. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's
Stephen?
that's right around there is what you'll see again. You just made a perfect
Well,
point.
that's the
Peter,
number I've
there.
been trying to get.
Yep, no problem. That is exactly, that's favorable number.
Laura
for the
won't
year.
give them to me until you say they're official.
Okay. So the other thing I just wanted to mention, and, you know, kind of piggybacking on what was already said about the strength of the district. One of the things that I always do is look at the fund balance section of your balance sheet each month. And obviously, you know, we talk about this from time to time, but that kind of is where when somebody asks me, well, wait a minute, where are reserves? How are we doing? That's where I kind of go to. And here's why. Because you have right now, what you're seeing is your cash balances. But what you don't see from here is your liabilities against that cash. When you look at your fund balance, you see the net of the two. And as time goes on, if you're seeing that fund balance grow, then again, you're seeing that the district is getting stronger and stronger. If you're seeing it go down, then again, there's more discussions that need to be had. And that's kind of why we talk about rate studies. We talk about the assessment levels, but that's where that kind of another way to look at how a district is doing.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Stephen Bloom?
No?
Thank you,
Thank
Stephen.
you, Stephen.
No problem.
All right, district attorney.
Yeah. A, all the parties that signed the memorandum of settlement. The mediator.
I didn't see the sky fall.
It was snowing.
Attorney, mediator filed a report before saying the parties will settle. Received the email communication today from the law firm representing the center, saying that we're going to be getting 2 checks tomorrow. One from Liberty Mutual and one from Zener, take care of their amount. And then we'll deposit that in our law firm trust account. We have to wait a period of time for those funds to clear. We cannot issue monies out of a trust account until we have cleared funds. And they're Federal expressing that to our office. Hopefully we'll have that tomorrow and we'll deposit that in our trust account ASAP to start that clearing process. The attorneys for Foreign Line in the past said they had the check because they asked for the W-9. We don't have any communication as to when they'll send it, but we will nudge them to get the money as soon as possible. The court had sent out, without going into detail, an order that I think moved everybody along. We've been moving along pretty well. Brett Parker for Infomark has been moving along pretty well. A couple of the other parties were a little pokey, but I think the court's order spurred everybody to bring this to a conclusion. So we'll keep moving on. Get the money.
You got that money ready for that 10% CD?
Is the money public, what we're getting? I mean, I don't see a dollar figure.
It's in the memorandum of settlement. So if anybody wants it, they can ask for a copy of the memorandum of settlement.
But it's not in the documents,
No, they have to request. No,
even though it is public knowledge.
they can request it and.
They can request it. Yeah, it's in the memorandum of settlement, which is a public record. Yes.
You don't want to share what that is.
No, I think, once again, the settlement agreement, memorandum of settlement referenced how people will be able to get those documents. And public records request is something.
No, the answer.
Yeah.
You got it?
That's short.
No, I don't want to tell you. Okay.
Again, they're public records and they can make a public records request.
All right.
So thank you, everybody, for all that. We'll keep plugging along.
You, Tony.
No, well, it was a great litigation team to work with, a great board to work with. It was
Fun.
interesting.
Don't go there.
So
I've had to have a few hair transplants since that time because a whole bunch of them fell out.
Interesting isn't a word I
That
would
there is a-
describe.
I looked at other synonyms and some I can't say in public. So yes, ma'am.
So the district, our litigation plate is empty.
I'm-
Here, Carol, I need you to knock on wood.
All
Did you jig us?
No,
Jig us?
that litigation not yet concluded. There were a couple of steps before it's dismissed. That's all I was saying.
So
Yes.
at the end of the year,
Well,
now I've been on this board for a year. I was going through papers and stuff that I've accumulated. Can I throw all that stuff away now?
Let's talk something.
I was gonna use the S word for it, but
Well,
can I throw all that?
why don't we talk later about that? How's that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want any of it back?
We'll talk about that.
Carol, I have a folder that's about that thick.
Well, let's, if you want to have that conversation, give me a holler.
Okay.
But thank you, everybody, for that.
Thank you, Tony.
And we all learned a lot.
That's
By the way.
champagne.
We all learned a lot. The
Project list update.
yes, a number of, one, we talked about the deeds to the district. I've followed up after the board's action for the last board we had, deeds to the district. We had a number of them were already received. And we're being held up. Pending the board agreeing to a conveyance of certain documents, and we need updates from Pavis on behalf of WCI Lennar, except for the two that I sent the email to Charles Mann saying Pelican Reserve Community Association wants those, as Nancy mentioned at the last meeting, like we call it 19 and 20 on our list,
Yes.
and there are some others. So I followed it up with Charles. We'll find out what's going on. On the Lee Health, I've heard nothing more, so we'll just kind of move on and see what, if anything, they do there. The restrictive covenants, I have that. I just need to send that to Chelsea, the memo. The capital improvement plan, financing and bond validation. Again, I have that finalized notice. I just need to send that in. Line lawsuit, we discussed it. Pelican Reserve infrastructure easement ownership identification, Bob's already mentioned. We have a couple more left. And we had a meeting the other day, a good meeting in Passarella, Bob Reed, I'm not sure of his last name, going over some other.
Reed Flood.
I'm sorry?
Reed Flood.
Reed Flood. And just going over some other areas, kind of picking up all the last little pieces of areas and clarifying on a map which properties that would not be appropriate for the district to maintain. So it was, again, just sort of clarifying. The difficulty with this process is you have plats, which are easy. You go to LIPA for ownership, you go plats for easements, then you have written easements that are not referenced on the plats. So it becomes quite the investigatory kind of process, but we're getting there. And I'll tell you, the overlay work performed by Passarella is fantastic. What they've taken and laid layers and layers and layers of data.
Very cooperative, very quick.
Very quick. The Genope Master Agreement, I think that's still with Genope. Chelsea, is that correct?
Yes.
That's the IT vendor. And do you have an estimated time frame for that? For them to respond back, or? It all depends. That's an attorney answer too, by the way.
Hoping so.
Very good. And one thing that, based upon the recent incident, we learned that we have language from our district insurance carrier as to language to put in the various contracts with the service providers for that vendor to carry data breach insurance and for the vendor to carry cybersecurity insurance. And so that's going to be added to all the service provider agreements. I had a nice conversation with the attorney for Atlantic Paver and Southern. They did not file a claim. So I'm going to have a follow-up call with her yesterday. I discussed with her whether the board would then approve $111,000 and then not the $25,000.
So the second option that I mentioned last meeting, deduct.
I mentioned that to her. I said, we're going to discuss this board meeting
$25,000.
today, deduct $25,000.
Out of the invoice.
So if the board wants to formalize that and say that we authorize payment, Chelsea, of $111,000 and hold back $25,000. Could be 111 and change.
So I guess we can just make a motion, just whatever the balance is minus $25,000.
Intent of that is the full payment based upon the fact that the district was not the
Correct.
issue.
Yeah,
The
that's
district,
how much we had to pay.
it was not on the side of the district where the issue lay,
Correct.
basically.
So that's what Tony's asking. Tony's asking if that's what the board wants, to make a motion to pay the bill minus the $25,000 and consider it paid in full because it was not a fault of the district, the reason why
Agree.
this happened.
And I mentioned to her that we discussed at the board meeting today,
Yeah,
whether that would be
Okay,
the.
so you want a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
So the motion is that we authorize our council to work with staff to submit payment less the 25,000
Deductible.
for the outstanding. Yeah.
And recognize we don't know how they will react from the
In
standpoint
light
of,
of the fact that they aren't going to do anything to help us.
Well, we'll see. That's the motion. In second.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, you said.
Well, that's-
I second, never mind.
Okay.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Reluctantly.
if I find out anything different, then I will come back to the board at the next meeting. We already talked about the CCNA agreement. The signed parcels are addressed to Milner. Contract copy machines I've received. Staff has just received a standard invoice every time. Even though I've sent numerous letters to Milner, this is on the copy machine saying contracts have issues, the contracts have problems, we don't believe they're enforceable. Come get your machine, we're not using it anymore. Milner just keeps sending invoices. So the next letter, because Laura's getting tired of it being in the corner of her office, I think. The middle of her office. And so I'm just gonna say, if you don't come get it by a date certain, we're gonna ship it to you FOB. And see what kind of reaction they get. And we get from them.
I take it we're not paying the invoices they keep sending, right? Okay. They
And
might
we keep
notice,
telling them we're not gonna pay.
yeah, they might notice one.
And I keep telling them, don't direct anything to the staff, send everything to me, and they don't send anything to me. Archive various documents, deed of Stony Brook, track B4, the title report, Darren Scott, the attorney for Stony Brook, updated, you have a new one, so that's fine. The form of the documents are fine. It's just a matter of us clarifying the exotics on that property, track B14.
And I think the last,
Um,
yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
And I think Tony, last I met with staff with Daniel and Chelsea and Elle. And the area that originally I had concern with the Brazilian pepper, it is not on, it's the way, solid waste. But there's an area across the berm where the fence line is, and that does have, substantial amount just on the berm area of exotics. And I don't know if we notified them
I
yet.
did.
We did,
yes.
yeah.
I notified Nanette and after our president's council meeting last week, she mentioned that they were gonna reach out to Woods and Wetlands to address the remaining issues. It's been approved from the legal standpoint. So once the invasives get removed, we do a final inspection. We can get the documents in order and get them recorded and the land turned over to the district.
Yeah, along those lines, from a timing perspective, then are you okay with putting this on the February 15th board agenda to accept the deed?
I'd rather wait until we hear back that
Okay.
the vendor has performed the work and then staff do a follow-up inspection.
Okay, so I'll just be on hold until you tell me that.
Yeah.
Okay. The roads and streets with regards to the updated Attorney General's request, Katie Berkey, the attorney for Stony Brook, has provided comments to me last week. I'm meeting with her next Friday to go over those comments. So probably the second meeting in February, we'll come back to the board with a form of the request to go to the Attorney General, so the board can bless it.
Okay.
And with regards to the, if you recall, last time I prepared a memorandum as to whether or not the district should pay for her attorney's fees. The association was kind enough to send me a copy of the billing statements from Becker. I noted a couple areas where copies of documents need to be provided, at least for my review, to make a recommendation to the board. But I want to talk with Katie Berkey about that to make sure she doesn't have any issues with any attorney-client privilege information on their end.
Okay.
that could be redacted, but still provide the opportunity for the board to make a decision whether the primary purpose is a public purpose with
And to,
general private.
to chime in on that, we did have some email communications that where they had submitted requests for reimbursement on that. We did notify them today that this is still pending the district attorney's final determination on it. And of course, as soon as we get the results of that, will depend on if we reimburse it or not.
Yeah, and again, it appeared to be from some of the entries, they appeared to be related to the, I'll call it the public purpose, what the board's trying to do. Some seem to fall into the category of purely the HOA. So that's what, I want to have that conversation with Katie and ask if I can look at and have, if we need to redact certain aspects to provide to the board so that the board can make a legislative determination as to appropriateness. So I'll get with her next Friday, Joe.
I'll say yes, but you should just come here. I was gonna ask you a question too.
I apologize for looking at Mr. McCullough. That kind of gave him the chance.
Joe McCullough, Stony Brook Gateway HOA president. Anything that comes from Katie, the only thing that she is working, while we do use Becker and Polikoff, the only thing that she is working on is the road takeover. There is no other.
No, I understand, but some
Activity.
items seem to be more guidance to the association as opposed to guidance that would help the district. And so that's why I just need to have that conversation. Whether it's private or for the public.
I understand. All right. I'm just looking at it from the perspective that everything here
Everything
is
in there-
involved with this specific.
Correct. All those invoices did relate to this issue, but whether or not it was giving guidance to the association or having
I
activities.
understand. You're protecting them in a way. and let's get
Well, whether
involved.
it was activities that were coterminous what I was doing or we were doing with the county.
Right, as long as we understand.
That's all.
Since you, well, I have a question for you. So just an update, because I know he asked to add the B14 transfer to the February 15th. And then she wants to wait on it. Do you have any updates? Do you know if what woods and wetland were over there?
I'll make a couple of comments real quick.
Okay.
I have no problem with going over and cutting the dead rotten stump down, but it makes no sense for us to send somebody over there to grind up roots in the middle of the woods of a dead rotten stump. As far as the red berries from the Brazilian peppers that are on waste management property, and there was a comment about them hanging over the berm or the fence line. We're not gonna go on.
Yeah,
waste
no,
management
that
property.
it's resolved because that was at the
Okay.
end near the service. The area that we're talking about is where there's a storm drain. And it's like you have to go in, like in there and do it. And it's the Brazilian pepper and then I guess, hold on, what's the other one? Like acacia?
Yeah, acacia.
Acacia.
Well, but
So that's actually the area that is, that I didn't even know there was an issue after we went in there and then you can really see it. So, but the original area that you could see it from Gateway Boulevard, that we're not, the staff is not asking you to do anything there.
To quicken this process then, because I don't want to get into running around with the
Mhm.
people who do that work. Is there a way of giving us a map and identifying what you're looking at and what you would like to remove?
Joe, we'd be more than happy to meet them on
Staff,
site.
yeah, I think staff. can
Okay, I
do
thought
it.
You
that
wanna-
happened already. It didn't happen?
They didn't come, it was
No,
just staff.
the only thing that was done, Woods and Wetlands provided the proposal and then the inspection was done of that specific area from post work. So I think if you're looking to try to get ahead, staff would be more than happy to meet you out.
Okay, and in that case, can you just send it to me and to Nan, suggested times and dates, and we'll see if we can get them out there?
Sure.
That'd be
Is this
great.
a conservation area?
This is,
No, it's
No.
not.
No.
It's property that we own. We almost enclose, not entirely the conservation area, because actually that conservation area is affiliated with the villages. Apparently, every community has to have one or somewhere. I'm not sure how that works. But
Okay.
they
Okay.
left a little strip that connect to them.
So sometime next week, then.
I won't be here, but we can have staff coordinate with, we'll send you some dates and times tomorrow, for either the next week or the following, the next 2
Okay.
weeks.
All right, very
With
good.
you and Nanette,
And
Nan,
yeah.
Nan, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Next is the Pelican Reserve PPCA agreement, district funds. We already had a lengthy discussion about that. The ownership, next item is the ownership of golf courses, bridges, ponds, fountains, et cetera. I think those are all.
I'm
wrapped up.
satisfied that that's closed. You can
Those are all
take that
wrapped
off.
up, yeah.
I don't know of any more items or areas that we are in.
Not yet.
disagreement.
Wow, you can take it off your list.
For
Wait,
now,
I gotta add 3 more.
I'll make the boxes bigger. No, the new service provider agreement, we've already addressed that. So I don't know if there are any other questions from the board and any other topics.
I have,
Well, yes, if we can go back to the very top one.
Okay,
No, I'm sorry. On the second page, or the very top one, to review board policies and procedures manual.
yeah, I need to get
I
back on
thought we
track.
did not have a procedures manual and that you were working on putting one together.
Well,
I
Chelsea,
had a note. But as I said, I was going through papers.
yeah, no, Chelsea and Laura drafted a procedures manual. I commented on it. And we just need to huddle back up, the three of us, to bring that back to the board.
Okay.
And then I think we'll share a workshop on that. What?
nothing.
Yeah. Is it on my plate?
It's
I
always
thought I
on your
got back
plate.
to y'all.
Tony, it's always on your plate.
No, it's not. I thought I'd gotten back to y'all. If not, well, I'll get back and so then we can have a workshop maybe for March or so on.
Okay.
If that works for
Yeah,
you
that's fine.
guys.
Well, I think February
Okay.
1st is our next meeting.
I've got utility rules scheduled for February.
Okay,
Oh,
We
for
need,
the
for,
workshop,
yes, ma'am.
okay.
Leslie needs some.
maybe March. then.
Tony is due here.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, Carol, for that.
I do have one thing that I failed to mention during district manager items, if I could bring that up now.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So it's out of
Chelsea.
here too. So we have, this is with regards to, SRF funding with regards to pond design. So if you recall, last year you approved a facilities plan for what we may mention of the 27 ponds that are remaining. We pursued SRF funding for design of all of those ponds, to the tune of about a little over $700,000. We've been trying to finalize the loan agreement for that design, and so some things came up. SRF has some concerns with issuing the agreement for the remaining 27 ponds when operationally we've been basically designing a year in advance. So right now we're in design for FY25 ponds. We're going to be asking for construction funding for FY24 ponds. So ultimately, the direction I need from you all is, we have the $700,000 approved. We can steamroll through and finish design of the remaining phases, understanding we're not going to be going under construction of those until FY28, 29.
And things could change.
And Mother Nature could change, escarpment, etc. Or do you want us to reduce that $700,000 for just the design of FY25 ponds? And then in August, we would ask for FY26. Now, understanding historically, design in the amount that we would typically be requesting between $150,000 and $200,000 has not been denied in the past, but that's the risk that we take. We strategically choose the August hearing because their fiscal year starts July 1st. So that's when their big pot of money is available. So really, we had a conversation with SRF, probably an hour-long conversation. They have some concerns with doing, the chunk because of tracking, making sure that the design matches the construction application in the future and
So
keeping.
they're concerned about design ahead.
Well, the reason that causes some complications on their end is historically, once the design is done and it goes out to bid and the bids are open, they close the design loan. If we have a design loan for multiple years of ponds, they're not going to be able to do that. So they would just issue a new project number for each. Normally we do the design.
What's
close
the
it out,
risk?
and add to
What's the risk
construction.
us doing the latter?
Doing the latter, which option? Reducing
Full year.
funding availability.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, even SRF said in the 40 years that he's been there, they've never had a problem approving design loans for the 200,000 that we've asked for. That's peanuts for them.
I was gonna say, because the issue of the designs we have left, keep in mind, the ponds that were bad, that had the large escarpments and the huge issues, they're pretty much narrowing down. We're getting ponds now that are a little bit more reasonable in the work. I just don't see a risk of having that design. What are we gonna change?
What's the easiest thing for staff? What is your desire?
I prefer to have them separate. And as does SRF, just for tracking purposes, internally keeping track of which design loan goes with which project going and which payment goes with which loan, because each project gets its own project number. So like the loan for the design will have a number, the loan for the construction has a number, and
Well,
they
usually they
normally go together, it'd be like an A and a B or a 0 and a 1. So I
zero,
think
one,
it's-
zero, two is where they
I
usually.
would prefer we split them.
They'll be,
Yeah.
they get.
So here,
So Chelsea, doesn't sound like
If-
you.
if they're-
But she doesn't.
If there's no issue on the money availability, then.
so
it's
here,
easy to-
here's the staff time that is involved. So staff would be required to submit the RFI in advance of the August hearing. So there's where we've already done that. That's what we've already paid Tetra Tech to do that. We've already been approved of the $700,000. So do you want to proceed with the next 3 to 4 years worth of design, 27 ponds, steamroll it through? Or every year, this is just a cycle, it's gonna add additional staff time. And we just have to make sure that we hit those deadlines for the August RFI.
Isn't it just updating a form that you filled out?
Yes.
It's about a 5-page form. I'm just,
I'm not arguing one way or the other, but if it's a cookie cutter, you just put in this year's dates, this year's ponds.
And I,
Changing.
and I
I'm
do,
okay with it. Yeah, just
Yeah.
change it up.
The biggest lift for the projects is the facility plan, which has already been submitted and it's good for 5 years.
so
So that covers us.
That's the big chunk of cash. is the
Well,
facilities plan. That-
but-
that's
to
the
pay,
block
to
that you-
pay,
The facility plan covers all the ponds in that.
Yes, and they've already approved that. So
Yes.
that facility plan that's approved is good for 5 years and it's covered all the ponds. So we would just use that same facilities plan and we submit the RFI saying this RFI is referencing this.
It sounds to me like whatever the best deal.
For the value in tracking,
yeah.
it's better to do it in segments. It's-
And then I do have concern because it's really hard to say if anything is going to change because the first 2 years, nothing changed. And then the third year, it changed. And really like, we couldn't really pinpoint, so
So-
there was not a lot of rain. It just,
If you do a lot of changes, you got to go back and modify
good
this
point,
facility
yes.
plan anyway.
that was, well, the point that SRF made. And I'm not agreeing to disagree. I just, we've been approved for 700,000 and we're gonna let 500,000 of it go. That's why I wanted to bring it in front of you. To SRF's point, things could change, and if you do it year by year, that design loan, if it gets closed out too early and we get to FY 28 and we need to make changes, we have to foot the bill for the design. Whereas if we chunk it out,
As we go.
We could ask-
Know what we need.
we could ask for a change order for additional monies for design if we had to make the
Which we've
change.
had to do in the past.
So honestly, I think there's kind of two things here. One, you're managing staff time and you're managing risk. When you're looking at a larger project, it does increase the potential for, errors or things of that nature. So that's fine. But ultimately, I think this really falls on you, Chelsea, and, how you want to manage it. So I know there's pros and cons. To us, we don't care as long as the projects get done and they get funded on budget. So my personal opinion,
Thanks,
Person-
Doug.
no, I mean,
Well, but I just, if-
Right.
but my personal opinion is the operational side of this. Honestly, we're not involved in the day to day. So I'd say you do what you feel like you need to do in order to manage these, and you're going to assume the risk, and we're just going to hold you accountable.
Well,
for it.
the reason why I brought it in front of you is because the loan agreement and everything have already been approved for us to execute, and now that
Not
we're,
for the design.
now that we're changing it, that I wanted to make sure that you were okay. If we did do the reduced amount, that you were okay with us giving that up,
There's no repercussion for doing that.
No,
paperwork.
we've done amendments in the past, like if the projects come in under what they've given us to amend the loan of the loan. We don't have the loan agreement for the design loan yet because they're waiting for us to decide what we're gonna.
then you can, I think I agree with Doug. You guys can
I don't think we care.
Okay,
figure it out.
all right.
All right, so,
Okay, and just another question about, you had talked to us a couple months ago about fire warrants. We had given.
Impact.
Impact fee
fees.
Or
credits.
impact.
Impact, yes.
Impact fee credit.
Same thing. Same thing.
Impact fee credits.
Is there any update on? They would extend it for
They-
3 more years because of COVID.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
did meet with the county manager, and that would require an entire public hearing and code change, and they said, right now, they are not going to do that. I will tell you, in the last couple months, we have had the broker, I got to follow up with him. He had interest for one sale of some fire impact fee credits, so that's all I've got for now.
But he can sell them to anybody.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they have to be
Within the city
within the
limits.
city limits. I guess the question
Well,
is he?
You know, that new development right there on 82 and Colonial, that they're moving all the dirt around.
Yeah.
And there used to be a whole bunch of trees there and whatever. I'm
The
I'm
broker,
hoping he's made
the broker is very
them.
in tune with all of the developers in the county and within city limits.
And has he done has he produced anything yet?
One sale, which I have to follow up with him about.
Okay. I'll encourage him to
I will,
keep going.
I will.
Chelsea, did he indicate whether or not the discount that we offered was not discounted enough, needs to be discounted more?
No, he was fine with what we provided.
And so the key issue is what other development opportunities are there in the city?
Yeah.
Where especially residential or large commercial,
Yeah.
industrial, where they need to use a lot of fire impact fee credits, because there's a formula
Yes,
for how many impact fees you have to pay. So that's the key, Kurt.
But that whole development has now been annexed into the city of Fort Myers.
I will touch base with him tomorrow.
What, that intersection?
Southwest,
Southeast.
southwest corner.
South- Yeah,
Southeast
southwest.
corner is Publix.
Yeah.
Southwest corner.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and agenda management.
So we've updated, again, we're learning as we go. Everybody has new ideas. So we've got agenda management for what we anticipate coming to you in February. Hopefully it's not too heavy. We've got a lot of projects that are either in progress or we're trying to queue up to bring in front of you for your approval. But the new thing that you'll see is on the second page. This actually came up as a recommendation from Daniel. With all of the number of committees and subcommittees that we have, is to get a calendar for the calendar year of the dates and times, or the dates of each of those committees, in case you wanted that.
It would be awesome if we had a district calendar with everything in it and we could all access it through our iPads. It's a shared calendar.
Yeah.
That would make life so much simpler. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would, that's what we should do.
Okay.
And is we're gonna look at July, because the first meeting in July is July 4th.
Mhm.
Don't think we're gonna have a meeting that day. Are we going to change that or?
That's to the purview of the board. So
Bob,
Looks to me like it's 4/18. Did we already change it?
7-4,
7/4,
July.
July.
Oh, July. Duh. We get time and a half though.
Most time we get half. We get halftime.
Good union, man. I couldn't hear this.
You get a firecracker.
Laura, basically in June is when all the PPAC and all the subcommittees and whatever have to have their budgets into you.
They have to have me by May.
And that's usually
May.
when we have already had to pass the high water mark budget.
Yeah, I like them to get their budgets to me in May, because you have until June 15th to do the high water mark.
So.
But I
would
don't
say-
expect that to be a difficult process anymore. Now that
No.
they're managing all their funds,
Right.
unless they have something major they're gonna do, it's pretty cut and
So
dry.
I will move to cancel the July 4th meeting.
Cancel or reschedule.
What'd you say, Doug?
All right, you cancel or reschedule, just for clarity. Okay. I mean, I don't care.
I'll second that.
I don't care. We can always add
All
one.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
The second meeting in March of this year is March 21st. And because it's the second meeting of the month, we would start it at 3:00. That also happens to be the date of the organizational meeting for Pelican Preserve Community Association. So that's when they have the election of their directors, and the organizational meeting follows after them. They have that scheduled for 2:00 on that day. I was wondering if we could move our meeting back 1 hour to start at 4:00 instead of 3:00. So that Bob and I could attend that voting meeting and organizational meeting of the community association.
How heavy is the agenda? Do we have anything?
For March.
Yeah.
I don't know that far out yet.
Oh, maybe.
Well, I was just wondering if we just move it back 1 hour, I think by 4 o'clock.
I don't have a problem with
I
that.
don't have any
we'd be
problem.
done.
Seems reasonable.
I don't think we should cancel our meeting, but
Yeah.
We already canceled one. I won't make my money.
I have a funny feeling we'll be having more.
Yeah, that's right.
So 4 PM on the March
21st.
meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the only alternative to that is just to ask Pelican to back theirs up an hour.
We got plenty of things to talk about before July 4th, because something will come up.
Okay, yeah, I think it's fine. I don't have a
Yes,
problem.
Tony, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, if I could, I'll
notice?
just work with Chelsea, just amended notice. We publish the annual notice of the annual board meetings. And so we just have to put the time change for the one for March 21st and cancel July 4th. But that's just a short.
Told you we'd add something to your agenda, your packet of stuff, your to-dos at the end of the meeting.
Then my template for that is real simple. though.
Okay. I know, I added it.
Yeah. Period.
Anything else on the agenda management?
Is there anything that you need us to reprioritize or?
Well, I did have one other question. We had sent a letter to Lee County asking them to allow us to host a public hearing on the recycling center and to have that in Pelican Preserve. Have we gotten a response back from them?
No, ma'am. I actually followed up this week with the county manager to make sure that he received that item. And I did speak with Cecil Pendergrass. I learned something from Cecil. So if a county manager dissents or votes against an item, they cannot bring that item back for at least a year. So
didn't Cecil vote against?
he voted against, so he cannot bring it back up for
He dissented
consideration.
against the,
The approval
'Cause it was
of the
4-1.
purchase.
okay.
Now, I did go back and look at the motion that was approved for that, and it was a approval to purchase contingent upon the due diligence of that property. So if, like I said, I reached out to the county manager, that was at the suggestion of Mr. Pendergrass. Since it would be his staff that would be doing the presentation, I have not heard back. But if you all would be interested in reaching out to the other Board of County Commissioners to and see if they would be interested in bringing it back up. Again, it's my understanding that Cecil cannot. So, but if I hear anything, I will let you know.
Just haven't checked in a while. Does Lee County have a public petition process where an item can be placed on any county commission agenda like 2 weeks in advance? A member of the public can get a period of time to speak, to ask the board to address and direct staff to then do something, come back. I know Cuyahoga County has that process where you make a request for public petition, you get 10 minutes at the beginning of the board meeting, you ask the board to direct staff to do something. The board says, yes, we will, or no, we won't. Then you come back at a future board meeting.
Okay.
I'll check the codes for that,
Okay, so,
whether that process is available in Lee County or not.
All right.
okay.
I'm sorry, just a quick point on that. I don't know if there will be space available when at Pelican Preserve. We've been having a really hard time getting things scheduled in rooms. And I would remind you that we're a private, town center is private property. So I'm not sure we can hold public meetings there. We need to
So,
look into that a little bit.
To clarify, in the letter, it was in Pelican or in a vicinity nearby that could accommodate a large crowd. It's not a formal public hearing. It would just be a public
An
meeting.
information.
Information
That's what I
purposes
thought.
only.
Okay.
Even
So-
that, if we hold public meetings at Pelican Preserve, we risk having our town center property become public, which subjects us to a lot of OSHA, ADA things that we're not currently
All right, so
subject to.
Pelican's
So we
unwilling
need to be
host it.
concerned.
That's what I'm
We
hearing.
can find.
And don't
someplace else.
forget, we have
I mean, I thought
multiple
Pelican wanted
schools.
it.
They're the ones that
I mean, just to me, to be quite frank, I'm
Yeah.
kind of shocked because Pelican was a big
Carol
for this and they came in.
Well, isn't she a subcommittee of you?
Regardless,
Okay.
if it does happen, don't
It doesn't
forget,
have
we've
to
got multiple schools in the area.
Yeah.
The Gateway
I'm-
High School has a
I'm
really
glad-
nice auditorium.
Well, the
Yes.
county would find the location and coordinate it,
Yeah.
so. The request was to have it within the community if they could accommodate, if it could be accommodated, and if not, that's fine. We can
But-
find it.
And did the request come from Carol? That's who I thought it came.
Yes.
It came through the public forums that we already had a public meeting, and that was a result of it, with Ms. Brokey
Yes.
being the voice of it.
Okay. I'm okay with not doing it. I don't-
So, Ed, do you think maybe you could, ask Cecil, who he might recommend that we approach? Who voted?
What
yes?
other board member? Yeah.
One of the other board members to see if,
We'll find out.
maybe if he could just give us a name.
Okay.
So we're.
I would
just
suggest
finding out.
Sandelli, Ray Sandelli, to approach.
Okay.
Well, you guys are doing it, right?
He's the beach?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Well, I thought Cecil was the only one that voted no, so
He is.
by
Yeah.
default, any of the other ones, unless, one is more
Okay.
flexible.
All right. And Tony, you have a
Just a
comment?
question, do you know whether or not it would help if, Darla, the city council member from that ward that covers Pelican Reserve, if she used.
Darla Bond.
Yeah, if that would help or not, if she was to contact also, because.
If you want, if the board wants, I can reach out to her and see if she can assist.
I would-
Yeah, I have a good relationship with her too,
Reach
so I
out
can.
to Ray also.
If the board wants, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know him that well. I know a couple of the other ones, but not him that well.
I don't know any of them, so.
Okay. Any other questions on the agenda management? No? Okay, so let's go ahead and supervisor comments. I'll start with Bob.
Working with KW and PPCA to improve the Wi-Fi capabilities in the meeting room over there. Excuse me, that is typically used by our 3 subcommittees. They are going to provide a projector which can be plugged into a laptop so that the attendees can see everything that's on the laptop, whether it's agenda or photos or a video. Don't have an answer yet on what they're gonna do for the Wi-Fi, but supposedly we're working in that direction. So that's all I.
All right, Ed?
Yeah, a couple of things. FPL easement, cleaning that out.
It was done.
Looks much better,
Yep.
looks much better. Now, all we need to do is maybe take a disc in there, disc it up and put some bahia or some cheap grass to grow to where it'll look normal, but it looks so much better. It was unbelievable. FPL light. I know we've negotiated this agreement with FPL, but their, watch my words here. Their response to lights out is slim and none. We've had lights out since the hurricane. They still haven't fixed. And if we call them up, they ignore it. It's not an issue. My concern is when we get done and we put in all these new lights and they go out, are they going to do anything to work on them? What do we have to get those guys to come out and fix stuff that's not working? They're not showing anything in our community. They've got 112 lights. And we every night the rover puts a lights out report. Every day, the next day, we send in a deal. These lights are out at this location, and that location. Don't hear nothing back. Nothing. They don't care. So I just want to make sure that when we get done and we have street lights out here in the community right now, we call Bentley or one of our other providers. They come in, they get it fixed. FPL, their process has been do nothing. They don't care.
And before you leave that, do we have an analysis that said, here's what our expense was prior to entering into the new agreement, and here's what it's going to be afterwards, so that we truly know there was a savings? I mean, this whole project has been initiated on a basis of saving
Well,
residents money.
It was a big capital item. I don't know what the comparison of capital and operating costs.
We
were.
had
Capital
that.
was huge.
We had that.
It was about $8 million if we
I
were to
remember
take it on
I thought
ourselves.
the capital was about 8 million. I
Yes.
didn't know what the O and M was.
Yeah,
But
I'd have to
anyway, it's a
go
big-
back and
it's a
pull that
big number.
Tetra Tech.
Well, I
report.
just wanted directionally, we are in fact saving money. I know it's easier and it may be even better, but it was presented to us as a way to save money,
Mhm.
both capital and operational.
And I think it was, and then also the new because then we would have fallen into the new requirements of the county. And I don't think the original report even had that, like the additional lighting that we need to have, and there was already a savings even without that. Did you recall that?
I believe so.
Yeah, so,
But are we, is Is this gonna happen? Are we on that path? It's already,
Yeah.
we,
No,
voted?
they are approaching.
Okay, so they're already starting.
Well, they're approaching final design. And I did ask Eric that once final design was received, that they go stake it where the poles are expected to
Mhm.
go, so we could see where there were conflicts, more specifically with the utilities than anything. And so once that's done, then I think last he told me they're shooting for probably summertime.
Okay,
Yeah.
'cause I would just like
That
to
was
see
90 days after
Yeah.
the best guess projections for cost, how it impacts us
Mhm.
in both capital and operation.
I don't remember the operating, but I remember the capital.
Yeah,
And I
I'd have to
remember
go
that
back
number.
and find that touch.
If we can ask for that,
So-
because they're analyzing Pelican, and the question I keep getting in my community is,
It was like $16.28.
are we
I
gonna
think,
spend,
per-
are we
per
spending money, or are
pole.
we saving money?
I think that's what it was. It was under $17 operational that's gonna cost us per street light.
As opposed to,
I don't remember what the other
how
part.
how you can't crank out the repair costs. I mean,
No,
They
well,
could on a.
We had all
lower-
that. Let's just
I
pull up.
don't mean under the new, I mean
I-
under
I
what we're
have-
currently doing.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't mean
I
that.
don't remember seeing that.
That would be our numbers anyway.
Yeah, yeah, so that would be on our end, yeah.
You know, if we're
Okay.
spending $1 million a month, and
I
now
had-
we're all covered, that's good news.
I have one other item. Who do we use? We've got to replace, time flies when you're having fun. We get some monuments that are getting bad and we need to replace monuments in our community. Do we have somebody or vendors that we're using for monuments?
We are soliciting, actually, it's funny you say that because the vendor that we had shown you some
Those pictures.
pictures from before, they're a local one. Randy found another one just over the last week that we want to touch base with. So shoot me an email. I can get you that information.
There's
We do.
there's two options on that. You can go full, concrete materials.
Yeah,
Or
stucco.
you can do like Mr. Foamy's a good one. He'll just do
The casting.
overlay, cast overlay, and then it's durable, but
We've
it's-
had a nightmare with those ones that not WCI, just Westinghouse gave us, which were essentially the foam. They're a pain in the neck.
Most of
I
ours do
mean,
that.
Deteriorating.
You look at them and they break. And they're very difficult to repair.
Yeah.
And we want to switch over to probably concrete and
yeah, okay.
something else more long-term.
Yep, I can get you a couple of
Okay,
names.
okay, that's all I have.
Doug?
I just have one quick item. So I brought this to staff's attention like last week. With the league feels that the flag football that plays at the soccer field on Friday nights, they have their games. So, and they had about a 30% increase in participation this past season. So I think they rented some additional fields. So they rent on Friday nights, starting at around 6 something, they have field 2, 3, 4, and 5. So those are all the fields that run this way. The one that they don't rent is field 1, which is adjacent to the school. It's a smaller field. That's why they don't rent it. So what I've noticed and I've heard inquiries about is we have encouraged all of the leagues, almost required them to be diligent with their parking. So we've partnered with the school. They allow overflow parking at the school, which is great. Problem is, field 1 lights aren't turned on at night because flag football doesn't rent that field. So what I asked staff to do is take a look at it. What I would like to see happen until maybe next season when we can renegotiate is just have staff turn on field 1 at night. So the impact is, if you look at the school, there's 3 points of entry from the school. One is in the back at field 4, which those lights are on. It's still dark in between the back of the school and the field, but at least there's some lights on. The other is directly straight across here to the school, and you come in on field 1, which is extremely dark. The other is you walk around the parking lot and you come in through the side gate. So I know Chelsea's going to look at it. I even talked to Tim, the league owner. He said, hey, maybe next season we can, maybe I'll rent field 1 as long as the district maybe can cover the lights on it. We won't really use it, but if it's for safety perspective. So I've asked staff to go take a look at it. I think we should be turning, at least for the season, turning field 1 on. 1, because I think it's safety and liability. And 2, not only are there people walking through, but we have some kids just as overflow or just kind of playing on field 1. And so we really don't want them to be out there in the dark. So I don't know if there's any questions, but I've directed, Chelsea to.
Would solar pedestrian lights do the same thing? Just
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea even mentioned that what she's gonna look at over time is to look at putting pedestrian lights in there,
Yeah.
which would be helpful. But I think there's some things we should be looking at, like, action now is just, hey, it might cost $10 a night. I mean, it's not that expensive, for that. And just to get it through the season, she's gonna work with Carrie and, Parks and Rec and look at some other things. Because ultimately, I think what we might do is anytime we have field usage at night, like, we don't want any lights off in a particular area that we can't,
But if they're all authorized to be playing on one, if we're lighting it, wouldn't we be encouraging that?
So that's, I was gonna say, that's my only
Doing
thing,
it
that I have no
anyway.
problem turning the light on, but then knowing that if we come on a given time and they're fully using that field, then.
well, no, what Tim said he would do is he would regulate the usage, because what we don't want to happen is people dropping in. But like, there's, there might be 10 little kids just running around over
Oh,
there.
okay.
So it's
Unorganized.
So we're not talking about organized. And Tim said he would do his best to manage that if we, if we were, so inclined to turn the light on. I'm worried about it's dark. I'm worried about the liability cutting through, and we are encouraging that overflow parking. It helps us as a district keep people off the grass.
We can't put a directional light that would address that from an existing pole.
Yeah, but we just can't, like, they play this Friday. So it's gonna probably take
Well,
us more
tough,
than, maybe a couple weeks to get that up. I'm just saying in the interim,
Okay.
Okay.
if
So,
there's no problem with it, we just direct staff, just turn field one on until we come up with a solution for now.
Say like with Tim, like regarding the parking, I mean, I haven't done probably in at least a month, I haven't. But like, they still flag, they put the caution tape and they work beyond everybody else.
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
Ensuring that they're not messing up the landscaping, so I don't have a problem to turn it on for safety and stuff, but as long as it's not.
Well, if I can just
Usage
give
is not.
give two comments. So the
Yes.
conversation that Doug and I had, and it's a double-edged sword, and really, I mean, I get both sides. I really do. Number one, that complex is technically closed unless it's rented for field play after dark. And so by turning on field one, you're essentially enticing people to use that field, even though it's not rented per se. But on the other hand, I totally get they're out there anyway, safety, security purposes, etc. I don't know if that parking lot over at the school is illuminated at night, which may contribute to it.
Sometimes it's not.
Like the
But
back
most
is
of the
really
time-
dark, but
So I think long-term solution is, like Bob suggested, and like I did in my call with Doug, was to have pedestrian lighting for when it's not pedestrian
Yeah,
safety
yeah.
lighting. But understand that the taxpayer, there's no revenue that's going to be offsetting the field lights being on field one during this time. And granted, it's 1 day a week, but still it's 6 to 9:30 PM. It's 3 hours worth. We charge $33 an hour.
but that's not our cost. I mean,
Okay.
I'd have to,
I'm almost positive that's not our. cost.
we're,
But I'm just concerned if there's a safety issue, then we address that.
Yeah,
Because
let's
it's a
address it in the
lot-
short term,
it's
and
a
then we'll
lot
figure it out.
cheaper to turn the lights on.
Yeah.
Than address something else.
So we good?
Yeah.
so,
But monitoring that they're not,
Safety is first.
yes.
okay, so,
Turn it on as an interim until staff comes back with, with potential solutions.
so is that? we're
Yeah.
good? Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have two things. At your desk today, you saw this little piece of paper. My idea was that we would, in Pelican Preserve, we need to start an education program so people know who to call about what, instead of just directing everything to one person, which is what they're doing now, and then she has to sort it all out. I thought about a refrigerator magnet that you could put on your refrigerator. This is just an idea. I'd like staff to put it together as to I have no idea about cost, whatever, and a program to mail this spring yet. I'd like to get it in people's hands by the end of March at least, because that's when people are still there and they'll put it on their refrigerator. But I'd like this to be developed by staff and put on the agenda for PPAC at their February meeting. And then have them come back to us and say, yes, go with it, and, you know, analyze the design, the prices, all that sort of stuff. And then hopefully we'll still have time to mail this out in March.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
And then, we all, I'm assuming we all got this, from the Pinecrest Community Association, the email about the dog parks.
Of course.
And it basically, was the noise. But I think they make a valid point. I actually went there on the way over here, and it is very close to the houses. I mean, you've got the church, and then you've got the park right here, and then you've got the homes all around there. So I think they make a valid point. I was wondering is staff going to be meeting with their board of directors, the Pinecrest
So
people, or?
I had not planned on it. What we did was when we sent this to you all, we also sent it to the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee and wanted them to weigh in on it.
Okay.
And either come up with a recommendation to you all. But the plan was to put landscaping, although not required per, you know, the codes, to have a landscape buffer around it. I think there's a partial one there. We have submitted the LDO to put.
And to be honest, I was just gonna cut you off, location, because I think the understanding is where it's gonna go is gonna affect way more Eagle Point, because it's gonna be on that side than the Pinecrest. So
Okay.
I think,
I
I
don't know which one
think this
which,
is
to be
too
honest.
soon. I wish, because they have reached out to me plenty of times.
Oh,
I would have, not on this issue, I wish they had reached out, and then I could have put them at ease, which this is the location versus this is the location, and this is the type of shrubbery that they're planning on putting in. And I, in light of all of that, but I know one of the park members is reaching out directly to their HOA because he lives there.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
kind of taking care of itself.
The Pinecrest or Eagle?
He's an Eagle, but he's going to Pinecrest. and
Pinecrest, you have basically 4 lots. Back up.
It's just 4 homes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
It's just
I
for
thought it
homes.
was the ones over on that.
no, that's
that
Eagle
side.
Point, and
That's
that's,
Eagle.
what is Super Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so they're actually are happy because they're gonna get shrubbery, or they don't have none, and they're not gonna have any cost to it, so,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that we reached out to them in some, because they did make a valid point,
Okay,
I
so,
think.
And so to get in front of this, I think there's a couple things we need to do. One, we should probably see if we can get someone out and do some random decibel readings at variable times at the dog park, so we understand what the noise impact might be. Because again, we're just operating on assumptions right now. And also what those times might be as well. So is it more heavy in the morning? Is it in the afternoon? Is it at 6 o'clock when people are home trying to have dinner? Is it Sunday morning at 9 o'clock? When there might be church services going on or other things. So we just need to be aware of what the true.
We can gauge that based on the fob of the
The
existing
usage.
dog.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's
we
between,
should have the data.
3:30 and 4:45.
There's two groups. There's.
So
the
there's
morning and
volume
afternoon.
and then
Yeah.
there's noise. Okay.
That's
The
gonna
other-
say it's at the end there.
The other thing is, I think we need to, in parallel, be also looking at alternative solutions. As of right now, I don't know of one. But I
You
think
talking about just dog park?
just dog park. I'm just talking alternative solutions for the dog park. And like I said, I don't know of any, and I don't think we would incorporate it in the Commons Park.
It has not.
But so just, I think we need to be kicking that tire because if we look at precedent, there are communities like Pinecrest that, if they feel like it's not good for the community, they will push back. And again, I'm not saying other communities wouldn't do the same exact thing. They probably would. But I think I said this before. I felt like this was coming.
Excuse me, guys.
So would it be appropriate for this board to direct your Parks and Rec Advisory Committee to perhaps take lead and address it, albeit?
I wouldn't have them, no.
No.
I would not have anyone from Parks and Rec addressing the community at this time.
Okay.
I would do our due diligence
All right.
so we can have facts, because that parks, I mean, no offense, but the Parks and Rec and Committee are not trained to be able to have those types of conversations with the community at this point.
I meant in to the sense of, hey,
Hey, Nancy,
Ma-
Nancy, if you guys want to take a thank you. Go ahead, Chelsea.
if,
Oh, no, I just needed like silence because we couldn't, yeah.
not necessarily interact with the community, but
Due diligence.
exactly what you just said. Brainstorm some ideas, alternatives, things like that. What are some solutions? I think you have an advisory committee that, you know, some, like to Flavia's point, some of them live right there in that same community.
Have them do this. I would do some observations. So we'll need to get decibel readings. We'll,
Yeah, we
you'll
can do
need to
that.
measure noise and we can measure volume because through the fobs. I would have them do some observations. Just have them pop in,
Yeah.
see how many dogs are typically out there. What is the noise level typically from their point of view? Because then at some point when if we have to engage, then they can come in and say, hey, based on our observations, this is, as the Parks and Rec Committee, this is what our observations were. Then we have that in conjunction with what our staff data findings are.
Yeah.
So it just puts us in a much better light. But again, I would have us maybe start looking at loosely some other alternatives, just as a fallback plan, because I think our new Public Works facility back there is contingent on that area being opened. Is that correct or not correct?
Well, it'll be all of that will be parking lot.
Yeah, so,
Is needed for the complex.
yeah, so just,
And what I'll say is if we're gonna do that, do it over there as well, because there's a fairly large amount of dogs already.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug, when
well, you,
like I was there yesterday when I sent you the picture, there were like 6. So, and like, and I also noticed that people utilizing those, which is great. Flag football was actually utilizing, I don't know if it's Tim, but there was about 20 kids there. So they are utilizing that. So it's not necessarily something new, but I think definitely education and putting them at ease of what it really is. I think that's gonna be great. I don't disagree.
All right.
I do have 2 things, and I guess there was a question for Daniel. One is the sod that we've been installing. Are we doing Floritan,
Which sod?
the one on Gateway Boulevard?
Yes. For at the roundabout?
Yes.
Yes, it's Florida.
So we're not taking, because I thought we talked about any sod going forward. Because of the sugarcane mosaic virus, we're going to go ahead and go with the palmetto because there is no cost difference, and at least we know that they won't be affected. And given that the report says that we do have active sugarcane mosaic virus on Gateway Boulevard, I think going forward, if we can probably take a step back and,
Yeah, I think it's too late for that.
well,
because we
yes,
talked
it's
about-
already done.
Yeah,
Yes, but for anything else, like the damage with Mainscape, because there's no cost difference, I think we should start going
yeah.
ahead
For
with the
palmetto.
palmetto because it won't affect it. And new Floritan is way, like, I'm telling you, I just had a homeowner resod the whole entire yard, front, sides and back. Almost $10,000, and he just did it a year and a half ago, because I guess neo Floritan is way more sensitive and will get the virus way sooner. So it's, yeah. So that's one, and then the second one, it was just a to-do. During our conversation, I noticed the priority list of the ponds, the website is not updated. So if
Yeah.
we can update that
Yeah,
one.
in our
that's it.
conversation with SRF, that was
That was one thing.
apparent.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I was, while Doug was mentioning, I did it. That's all. All right. Any motion to adjourn?
so
Move to adjourn.
All right.
also.
Aye.